The divorce papers landed on the marble floor like a death sentence, the sharp slap of paper against stone echoing through the hollow silence of the Gangnam penthouse. Bianca Torres stared at them, her hands trembling, her vision blurring with tears she'd sworn she wouldn't shed. 5 years. 5 years of needles and hormones and prayers that went unanswered. 5 years of watching her husband's face grow colder each time the pregnancy test came back negative. 5 years of shrinking herself smaller and smaller until she barely existed. And now this final, clinical rejection. Hyun-woo's mother stood in the doorway, her expression carved from ice and hereditary contempt. You have 1 hour to pack your belongings and leave. The driver will ensure you take nothing that belongs to this family. Before we dive deeper into this story, click the subscribe button and tell us where you are watching from in the comments section. If this story moves you, share it with someone who loves a good tale. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Bianca's throat closed, the air in the room suddenly too thin to breathe. Where am I supposed to go? That is not my concern. The woman's voice could have cut glass. You should have considered that before you trapped my son in a barren marriage. You are not Korean. You will never be Korean. And you cannot even give us a grandchild to compensate for the embarrassment of your existence. The words hit like physical blows. Bianca had spent 5 years learning the language, bowing at the precise angles dictated by tradition, and serving tea with the proper hand placement. She had made herself invisible at family gatherings to avoid being a distraction. She'd given up her nursing career, her friends, and her entire Brazilian identity. She had endured the pitying looks from Hyun-woo's sisters and the way his aunts would touch her stomach and ask, "Still nothing?" with a fake sympathy that barely masked their cruelty. And Hyun-woo, her husband, the man who had promised forever, in English and broken that promise in Korean. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the glittering Seoul skyline, refusing to even turn around and acknowledge the wreckage behind him. "You're not going to say anything?" Bianca's voice cracked, a tiny sound in the massive, cold room. "You're just going to let her do this?" He finally turned. His eyes were empty, stripped of the warmth that had once made her believe they could conquer anything together. "What is there to say? My mother is right. This marriage was a mistake. 5 years wasted. I need an heir, Bianca. You can't give me one. So it's over." Something shattered inside Bianca's chest, a clean, final break. She had loved him so completely that she'd lost herself in the pursuit of his approval. Now he was discarding her like a defective product. "Fine." Her voice was steady now. "Cool." She wiped her face and straightened her spine, a flicker of her old self returning. "I'll leave. But I'm taking the car. I paid for it with my own savings before we married." "You'll take nothing," Hyun-woo's mother snapped, stepping forward. "Everything you have came from this family's generosity. You'll leave with the clothes on your back and be grateful we're not reporting your visa status to immigration." Bianca looked at Hyun-woo one last time, hoping for a spark from the man she had married. He still wouldn't meet her eyes. She walked upstairs to the bedroom they had shared, the room where she'd cried herself to sleep more nights than she could count. The room where her marriage had died slowly, quietly, until nothing remained but ashes. She packed a single bag. Passport, phone, a few changes of clothes, and her grandmother's rosary. Everything else, the designer dresses, the expensive jewelry, the memories of a life that was never truly hers, could burn. When she came back downstairs, 2 security guards were waiting near the elevator. "They're here to escort you off the property," Hyun-woo's mother said with cruel satisfaction. "To ensure you don't steal anything." Bianca laughed. It was a hollow, broken sound that echoed in the marble foyer. "Don't worry. I don't want anything from this family. Not anymore." The guards followed her to the gate. It was raining, a cold, relentless Seoul autumn rain that soaked through her coat within seconds. She stood on the sidewalk outside the towering iron gates, watching them close with a mechanical finality. 5 years of her life were erased in the time it took for a motor to whir and a lock to click. Bianca walked. She didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to be away from the shadow of the penthouse. The rain turned her tears invisible, washing away the last remnants of the obedient daughter-in-law she had tried so hard to become. That woman was dead now. The streets of Gangnam blurred around her. Luxury cars splashed through puddles, and women in expensive coats carried shopping bags that cost more than Bianca's monthly allowance. This had been her neighborhood, but it was also her prison. She kept walking until her feet ached, until the rain had soaked through to her skin, until she found herself in Itaewon. In the international district, at least her brown skin wouldn't draw the usual stares and whispers. She collapsed on a bench near the subway station, shivering uncontrollably. Her phone buzzed, 23 missed calls from Hyun-woo's mother's lawyer. They were likely making sure she understood the terms of her silence. The prenup she had signed in a haze of love meant she got nothing. Not a single win. She had been so stupid. She had trusted love. She had believed in forever. And now she was sitting on a bench in the rain with nowhere to go. Her visa was tied to her marriage. She had 30 days to leave Korea or find another sponsor. 30 days to pack up 5 years and disappear. The rain kept falling. Bianca closed her eyes, wondering if it was possible to die from a broken heart, when a car pulled up to the curb. Not just any car, but a black Genesis G90 with windows so dark she couldn't see inside, the kind of car that whispered money and danger in equal measure. The back door opened. Bianca. A voice said her name like a prayer and a threat combined. Deep, smooth, and dangerous. She looked up. The man in the back seat was Korean, wearing a black suit that fit him like armor. His face was all sharp angles and devastating beauty, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that held an intensity that made her breath catch. "How do you know my name?" Her voice was hoarse. "Get in the car." It wasn't a request. Bianca's survival instinct screamed at her to run, but she had nowhere to go. "I don't know you." "I know you," the man said, his voice calm and absolute. "I know you were married to Kim Hyun-woo. I know his family just threw you out. I know you have nowhere to go. I know everything about you, Bianca Torres." He leaned forward slightly. "And right now, I'm offering you a choice. You can sit in the rain and wait for immigration to deport you, or you can get in this car and let me give you what they took from you." "What did they take from me?" She laughed bitterly. "They took everything." "Exactly." His smile was sharp as a blade. "Power, dignity, revenge, and a reason to make them regret ever treating you like you were worthless." Bianca should have run, but the cold had settled into her bones, and the fire in his eyes promised a different kind of heat. She stood up and got into the car. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like fate locking into place. The man extended his hand. "Park Jongsu. Not related to your ex-husband, though I know his family well enough to despise them." Bianca took his hand. His grip was warm and firm. "Who are you?" "The owner of half of Seoul's nightlife empire. The man in your ex-husband's family owes 4 billion won." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "And as of 10 minutes ago, the man who decided you're too valuable to waste on immigration." "What does that mean?" "It means I need a wife for business reasons. You need a visa and revenge. We can help each other." The car started moving. "I'll provide you with everything. Apartment, money, protection. In exchange, you play the role of my wife in public. Attend events. It looks beautiful. Make your ex-husband and his family realize what they lost." "This is insane." "This is practical." He settled back against the leather seat. "Privately, we maintain separate lives. No expectations, no pressure. Just a mutually beneficial arrangement." Bianca stared at him. "You're asking me to enter a fake marriage. I'm offering you a weapon." His eyes held hers. "Your husband threw you away because you couldn't give him a child. I'm offering you the chance to show him that you were never the problem. That you were always more than enough." The car pulled up to a building in Gangnam, one of the most expensive residential towers in Seoul. Jongsu's penthouse was on the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "This is where you'll live," he said, walking to the windows. "The master suite is through there. I have a separate apartment on the floor below. We'll maintain appearances in public. In private, you have complete freedom." "Why me?" Bianca asked. "Because you have something they don't." He turned to face her. "Fire. I watched you walk through the rain for 2 hours. You didn't collapse. That's the strength I need beside me." Bianca looked out at the city. Seoul spread below like a kingdom that had rejected her. "What do you really want from me?" "The truth." "The truth." Jongsu moved closer. "I want to destroy the Kim family. Your ex-husband's father was embezzled from my company. He refuses to pay. But a scandal could ruin them. And what could be more scandalous than his discarded daughter-in-law marrying his biggest rival? You want to use me for revenge. I want to give you revenge. There's a difference." He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, dark and expensive. "You have every right to hate them. I'm offering you the tools. And if I say no? Then I'll drive you back to Itaewon." She should say no. But the thought of Hyun-woo's mother seeing her thriving, married to a man more powerful than their entire lineage, was intoxicating. "I'll do it." Jongsu smiled. "Good. We'll get married tomorrow. Civil ceremony. Then in 2 weeks, We attend the charity gala where all of Seoul's elite gather. We'll make sure they know exactly what they lost. That night, Bianca stood in the master suite, staring at her reflection. She was still wearing her rain-soaked clothes, yet she felt like she was standing at the edge of a new world. Her phone buzzed. It was Hyun-woo. Bianca, his voice was strained. Where are you? My mother is worried. Liar. I figured things out, Hyun-woo. I don't need your money. So you're leaving for Brazil? No. The word was steal. I'm staying. I'm getting married actually. Tomorrow. Silence. Long shocked silence. What? I'm getting married to someone who actually sees my value. Enjoy your life, Hyun-woo. She hung up. Let him choke on that. The next morning, Bianca woke to find a deep burgundy dress and a note. Wear this. Car leaves at noon. Park Jongsu. She showered and dressed, feeling her old self return, the woman she was before she learned to apologize for existing. The dress fit perfectly. The jewelry caught the light. At noon, the car was waiting. Jongsu sat in the back, looking devastating in a charcoal suit. Perfect, he said. He handed her a box containing a wedding ring with a diamond so large it looked obscene. You're about to become Mrs. Park Jongsu. You need to look the part. The registry office was quiet. They signed the documents. A clerk pronounced them married. It was nothing like her first wedding, and yet it felt more honest. Jongsu turned to her outside. Congratulations, Mrs. Park. You're now married to Seoul's most dangerous man. And you're married to Seoul's most notorious failure, she countered. We make quite a pair. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Jongsu was professional and distant, giving her total freedom and resources. Bianca transformed herself back into someone confident. She explored the city not as a servant but as a queen. Then the night of the gala arrived. Bianca wore a sapphire blue dress with a dangerously low back. When Jongsu saw her, his composure cracked. Bianca, you look stunning. Untouchable. At the gala, every eye turned to them. The whispers were immediate. They reached the center of the ballroom and Bianca saw them, Hyun-woo and his family. He had a young, delicate Korean woman on his arm, exactly the type his mother wanted. Their eyes met. Hyun-woo went pale. Bianca, he gasped. What are you doing here? Attending a gala with my husband. She gestured to Jongsu. You remember Park Jongsu, don't you? Hyun-woo's mother had gone white. This is impossible. I married a man who values me, Bianca said. A man who would never throw me away. Jongsu extended a hand to Hyun-woo. I have to thank you. If you hadn't been stupid enough to let her go, I never would have made her my wife. Jongsu guided her away to the balcony. The city hummed below. You did beautifully, he said. Why does this feel so good? Because revenge feels good. For a little while. He leaned against the railing. Then it fades and you realize you're still broken. Why help me then? Maybe helping you will heal something in me. He looked at her. Thank you, Bianca. For playing this role. It doesn't feel like playing anymore, she said. Then he was kissing her. It wasn't part of the plan, but it felt like a choice. It felt like fire. Jongsu pulled back, his forehead against hers. This wasn't part of the plan. I know. It feels dangerous. Maybe I like danger, she whispered. Then let's burn. They left the gala early. In the elevator, Jongsu pulled her close, his hands on her waist. Bianca, he breathed, tell me to stop. She didn't. She leaned into the heat, finally stepping into a life she had chosen for herself. The barren foreigner was gone. In her place stood a woman who had finally found her throne. The next morning, the news of the marriage was everywhere. The Kim family stocks plummeted as investors questioned their judgment. Hyun-woo called repeatedly, but Bianca blocked the number. She wasn't a mistake anymore. She was the most powerful woman in the room. Jongsu entered the dining room looking at the headlines. The Kims are finished. Their creditors are calling in the 4 billion won today. What will they do? Bianca asked. They'll lose the penthouse. The cars. The status. He sat across from her. You won, Bianca. We won, she corrected. He reached across the table, taking her hand. This time there was no calculation in his eyes. Only the fire. What now? She asked. Whatever you want, he said. The world is yours. Bianca looked out at Seoul. For 5 years she had been a guest in this city, a prisoner of a family that never wanted her. Now she was the owner of her own fate. She wasn't just a wife or a translator or a barren woman. She was Bianca and she was just getting started. The path ahead was dangerous, built on a fake marriage and a shared hunger for justice. But as she looked at Jongsu, she realized that some of the best things are born from ashes. They were two predators who had found their match, and for the first time in her life, Bianca wasn't afraid of the storm. She was the hurricane. "Let's go," she said, standing up. "Where?" "Anywhere we want." And as they walked out together, the gates of her old life stayed closed, while the entire city opened up before them. "I can't." She threaded her fingers through his hair, her voice a ragged plea against the silk of his skin. "I don't want you to stop." The journey from the penthouse elevator to the bedroom was a blur of discarded armor. His jacket hit the marble, her shoes followed. His shirt, then her dress, pooling on the floor like a silken shadow. They stumbled toward the master suite, hands frantic, mouths desperate, years of isolation and emotional starvation channeling into a single kinetic moment. The heavy oak door clicked shut, sealing out the world. Outside, the neon veins of Seoul pulsed with indifferent light, but inside, the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and heat. Jongsu's hands traced her curves with a reverence that felt like a benediction. When he pulled back to look at her, his eyes weren't just dark with desire, they were bright with a fierce, protective ownership. "You're perfect," he rasped, his voice vibrating against her collarbone. "Every part of you is perfect." "I'm not," Bianca whispered, the ghosts of the Kim family's insults still echoing in the back of her mind. "Broken. Useless. Empty. You are to me." He caught her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "And anyone who made you feel less than that is a fool who didn't deserve the air you breathe." Their coming together was not the frantic collision of strangers, but the slow, intense fusion of two people who had spent too long in the cold. He took his time, learning the map of her scars and the rhythm of her breath, making her feel sensations that bypassed her nerves and struck straight at her soul. When they finally moved as one, Bianca felt the world outside dissolve. She forgot the burning need for revenge. She forgot Hyun-woo's betrayal. She forgot the shame of the divorce. There was only the heat, the weight of him, and the way he looked at her, as if she were the most precious thing he had ever salvaged from the wreckage of his life. When release came, it was a shattering of barriers. They collapsed together, limbs tangled, hearts racing in a frantic, shared tempo. Jongsu pulled her close, his hand stroking the length of her back as she buried her face in the hollow of his neck. The silence was comfortable, yet heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. "This changed everything," she whispered into his skin. "I know." His voice was quiet, stripped of its usual iron. "Is that okay?" She lifted her head, looking into eyes that were usually guarded but now held a terrifying vulnerability. "Yes," she said, certain for the first time in years. "It's okay." Morning arrived in a wash of soft, golden light. Bianca woke to the rustle of expensive sheets and the steady heat of Jongsu's body. He was already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching her with an intensity that made her heart skip. "Good morning," he said, his voice a low, sleep-roughened rumble. "Morning." She stretched, feeling her body ache in a way that felt like healing. "Last night was," he started, then paused, his expression unreadable. "A mistake." Bianca's heart plummeted, cold dread seizing her chest. She began to pull away, but he caught her waist, his smile breaking through, devastating and bright. "The kind of mistake I want to make again," he finished, pulling her back flush against him. "And again. Until neither of us can remember how to think straight." She laughed, the relief so physical it felt like a weight lifting. "You scared me, you jerk." "Good," he murmured, kissing the tip of her nose. "You should be a little scared. I'm dangerous, remember? A man with many enemies. You're also the man who made me feel wanted for the first time in 5 years." His expression softened instantly. "You are wanted, Bianca. So wanted it's driving me insane." The intimacy was shattered by a sharp, rhythmic knocking on the door. Jongsu let out a string of curses in Korean. His assistant's voice came through the wood, clipped and urgent. "Boss, you need to see the news." "No. It's everywhere." They dressed in a frantic scramble, rushing to the living room where the television was already broadcasting a local news cycle. Bianca's blood ran cold as she saw the headline, "Breaking. Park Jongsu marries the ex-wife of business rival." Below the text was a grainy but unmistakable photo from the previous night. It was the two of them on the balcony, locked in a passionate kiss against the skyline. Someone had been watching. Someone had sold them out. The story was a wildfire. Gossip blogs and social media were saturated with her face. They were digging up everything. Her modest background, her failure to produce an heir for the Kim family, the swiftness of her new marriage. The comments were vitriolic, calling her a gold digger. "I'm so sorry," Jongsu said, his jaw tight with rage. "I'll find out who took that photo." I'll make sure they never hold a camera again. Bianca stared at the screen, then to Jongsu's utter bewilderment, she started to laugh. Don't you see? This is perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. Now all of Seoul is watching. They know I didn't crawl into a hole and die. They know I found someone better, stronger, and far more powerful than Hyun-woo could ever hope to be. His smile was slow, appreciative. That's my girl. I'm not your girl. She stepped into his space, running her hands up his chest. I'm your wife. In this city, the distinction matters. Now, let's give them something to really talk about. Over the next month, Bianca and Jongsu became the most scrutinized couple in South Korea. Every move was a calculated strike. They attended gallery openings and charity galas, a united front, always touching, always sharing private looks. While the public was captivated, Bianca's phone was a war zone. Messages from Hyun-woo and his mother flooded her inbox. You're embarrassing yourself. Come back so we can settle this quietly. She deleted every single one. But in the quiet hours of the night, doubt still lingered. What happens when the scandal dies down, Jongsu? When we're just us? He pulled her flush against his side. What if I told you I don't care about the scandal anymore? What if I told you this stopped being a tactic the second I kissed you? I want this to be real. I want you. Not as a weapon, but as my wife in every way that matters. Jongsu, I'm scared. I'm scared of losing myself again. You could never be anyone's possession, he said, cupping her face. You're too fierce for that. I don't want to own you. I want to stand beside you. Equal partners in everything. Then show me, she challenged softly. I will, he promised. Every day for the rest of our lives. The peace was short-lived. A week later, the Kim family launched a counteroffensive. Hyun-woo's mother appeared on a major news network, looking the part of the elegant matriarch. She spoke of Bianca as a social climber who had stolen family heirlooms and forged checks. It was a character assassination designed to ruin Bianca forever. None of it is true, Bianca said, her voice shaking. I know, Jongsu said, his face a mask of cold stone. And I'm going to make them regret every syllable. I've had investigators pulling dirt on the Kims since the day we met. I was waiting for the right moment. They just gave it to me. The retaliation was brutal. By that evening, Jongsu's media contacts released bank records showing Hyun-woo's father had embezzled billions. They released photographic proof of his mother's long-term affairs and a log of Hyun-woo's astronomical gambling debts. Money he had stolen from Bianca's personal trust. The Kim family's fall was meteoric. Hyun-woo appeared on screen looking like a ghost, reading a scripted apology. Bianca watched the collapse and felt a profound, hollow sadness. Revenge doesn't feel like I thought it would. Revenge always leaves a bitter aftertaste, Jongsu said gently, wrapping his arms around her. But sometimes you have to clear the ruins before you can build a home. 3 weeks later, Bianca sat in a sterile doctor's office, staring at a piece of paper that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The doctor beamed at her. Congratulations, Mrs. Park. You're 6 weeks pregnant. Bianca's world tilted. That's impossible. I've spent 5 years being told my body was a failure. Stress is a powerful hormone, the doctor explained. When the body finally feels safe, it allows things to happen that it wouldn't before. She found Jongsu in his office. I'm pregnant, she interrupted. Jongsu went perfectly still. What? I'm 6 weeks along. Her voice broke and the tears finally came. I thought I was broken. I don't know if this is good or bad. Jongsu crossed the room and pulled her into his arms with a ferocity that took her breath away. Don't you dare apologize. Do you know what I think? I think your body knew it was finally loved. I think you weren't broken, you were just with the wrong man. And now you're with the right one. You want this, she sobbed. More than anything, he vowed. The following months were a blur of overprotection. Jongsu, the man who commanded a criminal empire, was reduced to a man who researched organic vitamins and hired a 24-hour nutritionist. When the news of her pregnancy leaked, the public saw it as the ultimate poetic justice. Even Hyun-woo sent a brief statement wishing her well, a white flag of surrender. At 8 months, Bianca went into premature labor. Jongsu held her hand through the agony, his face pale. When the cry of a healthy baby girl finally filled the room, Jongsu wept. They named her Sofia. She was tiny, fierce, and had her father's dark eyes. 5 years later, Bianca stood on the penthouse balcony. Inside, 5-year-old Sofia was giggling as she chased a puppy. Jongsu stepped out behind her, his arms sliding around her waist. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Marrying a woman who was just looking for a way to hurt her ex? Never, he murmured. It was the only honest thing I've ever done. You saved me, Bianca. You turned a house into a home. We saved each other, she corrected. She looked out at Seoul. She had been kicked out, humiliated, and told she was nothing. She had been planted in the dirt, and she had used that dirt to grow something magnificent. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a woman who knew her worth. She had been waiting for the right gardener, and Park Jongsu saw every part of her, the broken and the healed, and loved every single piece. Their story had started with divorce papers and rain, but it had become a love story. Messy, complicated, and absolutely perfect. The aftermath of their public ascent had not been without its trials. In the months following Sofia's birth, the power vacuum left by the Kim family's collapse triggered a ripple effect through Seoul's corporate and underworld hierarchies. Jongsu had to navigate these treacherous waters with newfound caution. He was no longer a man with nothing to lose. He was a father. He was a husband. Every decision he made was filtered through the lens of the nursery and the safety of the woman who had brought him back to life. Bianca, too, found herself evolving. She didn't just become a mother, she became a force in her own right. Using the settlement money from the defamation lawsuits against the Kims, she established a foundation for women who had been financially and emotionally abused by powerful families. She became a voice for the voiceless, turning her own infamy into a shield for others. The media, which had once called her a gold digger, now hailed her as a philanthropic icon. She realized that while revenge had broken her chains, purpose had given her wings. One evening, as the city lights flickered to life, Bianca sat in the nursery watching Sofia sleep. The little girl was a perfect blend of both of them, Jongsu's unyielding determination and Bianca's hidden softness. There was a knock at the door, and Jongsu entered, looking weary from a long day of negotiations but instantly softening at the sight of his family. "She's getting taller," he whispered, looking down at his daughter. "She has your stubbornness," Bianca teased. "And her mother's heart," he replied, taking Bianca's hand. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging in the air. They had come from such dark places, one from a marriage that was a gilded cage, the other from a life of shadows and steel. Yet here they were, in a room filled with warmth and the scent of lavender, building something that would outlast the scandals and the headlines. "Sometimes I think back to that night in the rain," Bianca said softly. "If I hadn't stepped into your car, where would I be?" "You would have survived," Jongsu said with absolute certainty. "Because you are a survivor. But I would still be alone in the dark." He pulled her into his arms, and in that embrace, Bianca felt the final pieces of her past settle into place. The pain of her first marriage, the betrayal of the Kims, the fear of the unknown, it had all been a prelude. A long, difficult road leading to this very moment. Outside, Seoul continued its frantic pace, a city of millions chasing dreams and shadows. But inside the penthouse, time seemed to stand still. They were no longer the most talked about couple, or a strategic alliance. They were just a family. As they walked back toward the balcony to watch the city they had conquered together, Bianca looked at the silver bracelet Hyun-woo had sent years ago, tucked away in a drawer of keepsakes. She didn't feel anger anymore or even pity. She felt nothing but a quiet, profound gratitude. Because without the ending of one story, she never would have found the courage to write this one. The future stretched out before them, bright and unpredictable. There would be more challenges, more battles to fight, and more whispers to ignore. But as Jongsu tightened his hold on her and the stars mirrored the lights of the city below, Bianca knew they were ready. They were two broken people who had built a fortress out of their scars, and there was nothing the world could throw at them that they couldn't handle together. "To us," Jongsu murmured, raising an invisible glass to the horizon. "To us," Bianca agreed, her voice steady and full of hope. And as the night deepened, the silhouettes of the man who had offered revenge and the woman who had found love remained etched against the glass, a testament to the fact that sometimes, the most beautiful things are born from the ashes of what we thought would destroy us.